Luke, you are literally in the middle of one of my YouTube videos.
I love you. I'll talk to you later.
Cute. Love that kid. Love that kid so much. Hi, it's Amy with Ask a Christian, and in the last video we started off looking at the 4 words that have been translated into hell in English. We saw sheol in Hebrew and Hades in Greek, and now we're going to look at Gehenna and Tartarus. As a reminder to you before we start, I'm not doing this to stir the pot or because I want to invent new theological ideas and gain a cult following. I'm doing this because many of my agnostic friends say that the #1 reason they are not interested in pursuing Christianity as a worldview or even taking a look at it is because they've been shown a picture of an ugly, vindictive God who burns people in hell for eternity. And I just want to provide enough evidence. I find enough evidence in the Bible that gives a different view. And so that's why I'm doing this today. Okay, the 3rd word for hell in the Bible is Tartarus. And it's a funny one because it sounds like tartar sauce and it makes me hungry for fish fillet, but it's only used once in the Bible, and that's in 2 Peter 2, 4-6. Now, Peter here is talking about the reality of a day of reckoning. He talks about how God is going to spare the righteous and punish the evil, including the fallen angels. He says, God did not spare the angels who sinned, but cast them down into hell, Tartarus, and delivered them into chains of darkness reserved for the judgment. Again, no burning, no eternity, nothing explicit here. It does sound like a place where angels, at least, are chained and waiting for judgment. So why did Peter use a Greek mythological word unless he wanted to connote everything that that word entails? Now, according to Plato's Gorgias, written about 400 BC, Tartarus is described as a place that's like a prison for the titans and other souls who will be judged after death. Well, again, just like in our review of the other words, we know that Peter did not believe in a full-on Greek mythological underworld. We know he didn't believe in another god. We know that he was monotheistic. And so he was just using popular ideas of the culture to make an impact. An interesting point here is that Tartarus is actually a proper noun, and Peter here uses it as a verb. How he uses it would be similar to me saying something like, hey guys, you know that old mobster so-and-so? Well, he totally got his butt Frank Castled. I don't actually believe that the fictional action hero, the Punisher, really exists, but if you're familiar with the show or the comic, you're gonna get what I meant, and it's gonna make a really strong statement. Point being in all of this, Tartarus is used once in the Bible, and translating it into the word hell was probably not the best choice. Many scholarly translations no longer translate that word into the English word hell. Okay, now the final word, Gehenna. Out of all these 4 words that have been translated into hell, for me, Gehenna was the most dubious. A little background on Gehenna. This was a place of really dark history for the Israelite nation. In the time of Hosea, one of their early kings, the Israelites had picked up some nasty practices from their pagan neighbors. According to 2 Chronicles 28:3, they were passing their children through the fire as a sacrifice to the pagan god Molech. They were doing this in the valley of Gehenna, and it was one of their lowest points as a people. Because of the eventual outrage against this practice, later kings mentioned in the Bible, 2 Kings 23:10, later kings had this area destroyed, torn down. They had the idols of the various pagan gods thrown in there and burnt. And so this place became a city incinerator, a garbage dump, if you will, and it continued that way until Jesus' day. Turn to Matthew 5:22 with me, and it says, "But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother shall be guilty before the court, and whoever says to his brother, 'You good for nothing,' shall be guilty before the Supreme Court. And whoever says, 'You fool,' shall be guilty enough to go into the fiery Gehenna." A few chapters later in Matthew 10:28, There's another tough verse that says, "Do not fear those who kill the body, but are unable to kill the soul, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both the soul and the body in Gehenna." Okay, so here's the thing, my friends, and this is the part I want you to get. More than anything else, this stood out to me. Though the word Gehenna does clearly infer fire and the judgment, there's still no evidence here of this eternal, torturous burning where you're actually alive and suffering throughout eternity. That's not what's happening in Jesus's warning words here. If we are taking Gehenna as an illustration for hell, as an illustration for judgment, then what we're really looking at is an individual's end of the line. What this seems to me, and you can be your own judge, but what this seems to me is that we are talking about finality by fire, not torture by fire. And that is a very important distinction. All right, my dear friends, that's it for today. Later in the series, I want to explain why this even matters, what hell's about, and what it says about the character of God. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, and you can also get a hold of us by Gmail. I'll put all that information in the description below. Thank you for asking a Christian, and until next time, I'm wishing you joy and peace for your journey.